Howdy y'all, Redneck Mal here with a build video on how I made my homemade coiler. I've been playing around with this thing. I really love having this, and it only costed me a couple bucks. I believe it only costed me like $4 or $5 in a couple of pieces of 2x4, and actually it was one piece of 2x4. But I had that sitting in my basement years ago. So I've played around and I've made some updates for comfort and to make it a lot easier to use. So anyways, the items that you're gonna need are 2 drill bits, a piece of steel, a tiny framing nail, or a picture hanging nail, 1 piece of dowel that you're gonna cut into 2 pieces. I'll explain that later. A pair of pliers with cutters, a hammer, and a drill, which are off screen right now. Okay, the drill bits. You're going to want to pick for the bigger drill bit. Instead of using a framing nail, you can use any piece of steel. This is what you're going to wrap your coil around. So, pick out a piece of steel that's the diameter of the inside diameter of your coil that you like to make, and then take a drill bit that is slightly smaller than that. For the smaller drill bit, you're going to want to find a drill bit that is the same size as the largest wire you're putting through. The largest wire I put through is Clapton's, and this is slightly bigger than Clapton's. I couldn't find one that I had already that was the exact size of Clapton's, and I didn't feel like buying a new drill bit set. So you're going to want to take a piece of 4.5-inch dowel, or I just got a stick from my backyard. I live in the middle of the woods, so finding sticks is a lot easier than having to go to Lowe's and buying a dowel. And then you're going to want to cut it into 2 pieces, a 3-inch piece and an 1.5-inch piece. This is going to be your top cap, and this is going to be your building base. And what you're going to want to do is find the center and mark it on both on the base and the top cap. Take your larger drill bit, insert it into the chuck of your drill, and trying to go as straight as possible, drill a hole right through the center. You don't want to go all the way through, just enough to get the nail started and to keep it going straight, because you want to try and get that nail as perpendicular to the base as possible. So next you would take your nail, put it in, and hammer it in. Okay, so there you go. Or your piece of steel. If you're using a piece of steel, I'd suggest putting a little bit of sand in the end of it and putting a little bit of some sort of a bonding substance in there, like glue or something. And then you're going to want to take, if you're using a framing nail, it has that slight little lip on it for the hammer to grab onto. You're going to want to take your cutters and cut that end off. Okay, see? Focus. Anyways, I took the end and I cut it off. Then you can take a piece of sanding paper and sand it smooth. Make sure the nail is shorter than your top cap. And mine is. Ignore that other hole. I made a boo-boo. Okay. So, I think I actually want to cut this just a little bit smaller. Sorry guys, these cutters aren't the greatest. They're old and all rusted up. Okay. So there we go. A little bit better. It's all just feel. You're going to make a bunch of these, mess it up, and you're just going to have to keep reiterating it to your desires. Take a quick vape. Always when you're doing something like this, have a mod that's, even when you're building a coil, have an extra mod set up for those moments when you get really frustrated. Okay. So, for the next step, you can either take the center post out or leave it in, and you're just going to have a little bit of a harder time. We're going to take the drill bit at a slight angle and drill it through so that it comes out the side piece, and that's where you would feed your wire through. It is that hole right there where I feed my wire through. Let me see if I have a piece of wire to show you. Here, I got some Campbell right here. Actually, I got some nichrome right here. So you take this, feed it through that side hole, and it comes out the top. That's how you would start your coil. Okay, so you just got to take this very slow and very, very careful. If you have something to start a pilot hole with, use it. I do not, so I'm just kind of eyeballing this. Okay, to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to try and drill down just a millimeter or so. And then I'm going to take the drill and put it at a slight angle. And then I'm just going to try and just fill it on through till I come through the side. There we go. That's what you want. So that'll be where you feed the wire in. Through those side holes. Alright, that worked out pretty nice. Just going to clean up that hole a little bit. Okay. So for the next step, you're going to want to get your big drill bit again. And yet again, as straight as possible, drill the hole through the top cap that the coiling rod fits through. again, you don't want to go all the way through. Take it slow and just drill it until the point where they meet perfectly. Right now I gotta go another 1/4 of an inch deep. That's all it is just drilling it out a little bit, testing it, drilling it out a little bit, testing it. There we go. Almost there. This drill hole is actually not that center, but the problem is that I'm using a tree branch, which is not perfect. So I think I actually am going to go another millimeter down. So that should be good enough. See, now it's one piece again. If you haven't already, now would be the time to, if you're using a metal rod, or even if you're using the nail and you want to, put that glue in and permanently put this into place. Okay, so the next step is going to be to take your framing nail and to create a little piece that catches the wire and twists it around the coiling rod. This takes, I'd suggest, either making 2 top caps or using 1 of each size for advanced builds and standard builds. What I mean by advanced and standards are just 1 piece of wire wrapped around the coiling rod, and then advanced being like clapped and twisted, where they're much, much thicker, where there are multiple pieces of wires that are either twisted or braided or however together, so they're much thicker wire. But I've got my old one here that I'm going to try and use as a template to hopefully find the center, to find where I put the last one. Okay, so how do I want to do this here? I think what I want to do is that. And there we go. Oop, wrong side. Okay, so I made a tiny impression just by putting one of the drill bits, the shorter drill bit, in the old one, and just pressing down, and that old nail left me an imprint. And before I pound it in, I'm going to set it on the piece of wood, and I'm going to take the thickest piece of wire I got, which is 24, and I don't use too much thicker than that on my regular builds, and make sure that wire is going to have plenty of room, which it is. And then you can sharpen this if you feel that it will make a difference. I'm not going to. I am just going to attempt to get it in there. Because obviously when you get a picture nail, they're really long. I cut mine up into like 4 pieces so I can make multiples of these. Or you can do like I did earlier with the coiling rod itself. Drill a hole with that's slightly smaller, which might be what I'm going to end up having to do here. Nope, I got it. So I'm going to dry fit this into here. See how that wire fits around it. Fits in it. Fits in that gap quick. Just want to make sure that it fits in there easily. It can get in and out and move around. You don't want a lot of side-to-side play, but you do want some side-to-side play. And it looks like that is perfect. Hammered it in just a little bit, just so it's in there. And there you go. There is my homemade coiling jig. Now to quick make a coil. I'm just going to use some of this 24 gauge Canthal A1. Just because I don't feel like using up some of my good nichrome right now. So you just take yourself a piece of Canthal, slide it in through the side hole we made earlier. Use your thumb to hold it down. Take the top cap. What I like to do is I'll make one turn first. I'll start the coil and wrap it once. Okay. And then from there, take my coiling jig. You don't need to press too hard. You just want to twist it. Enough pressure just to keep the cap on the rod. And then you're just twisting the top cap. And when you're done, press down to compress the coil somewhat. And you can pull it off, and it can be a little bit of a pain in the neck to get this off, but it does need a little bit of further cleaning up. This is not the best. I think the advantage of using like an actual Curo coiler is it's made out of steel, and these coils do tend to push into the wood a little bit, so they don't compress as nicely. But as you can see, it's still right. Still wraps a pretty neat coil. I'm really sorry you guys can't see this very well. All I have right now is a really crappy webcam. So, I don't have the best setup right now. But anyways, there you go. That is a tutorial on how to build my homemade Curo coiler. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in another video.